Alright, before I start the video, I have an announcement. I would like to introduce you all to Rosie. Say hi, Rosie. Okay, go on you. She's so cute. And now she's moving my tripod so it gets shaky. I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Danny. These are the books I read in January. The first one is an old favorite and I listened to it on audiobook. I've heard of these, but I never actually listened to one, and it is a little playaway that holds the entire book. They're really expensive. You might as well buy an audiobook because these are actually more expensive than just buying an audiobook for some reason. But it is the audiobook to Undead and Unwed by Mary Janice Davis. This is a book series about a girl named Betsy who is this Amazon warrior tall woman who's, I think she's about 6'2" or something like that. One day she is leaving one of her favorite restaurants and she is attacked by these what she believes are crazy people. 2 months later she goes to save her cat from being hit by a car and she is hit herself. And the way she describes everything, like how she can hear her skull cracking and all this other stuff, is kind of gruesome, but it's not too graphic at the same time. After Betsy wakes up in the morgue from her car accident, she finds out that she has been turned into a vampire, and she spends some of the book trying to figure out, 1, how she became a vampire, 2, why none of the vampire myths seem to apply to her, and 3, why does everyone keep calling me Your Majesty? But I really enjoyed this book. I've read this book twice before and I still enjoyed it just as much. I believe I gave this another 3-star rating. I believe my first time I gave it 4, but since I kind of knew everything was going to happen, I have to give it a 3 this time. Although I did not change my rating on Goodreads. It's going to stay at 4. So it's very funny. This series is not something to be taken seriously. This series is mainly makes fun of itself. Sorry about that, my dog keeps running into the tripod. And it basically takes all the vampire myths and turns them on their head. Rosie, leave the tripod alone. And I continued on with the series and I read Undead and Unemployed. This is the second book in the Betsy Taylor series, and because this is a sequel, I cannot talk too much about this, but it is basically Betsy going on with her vampiric life, trying to figure things out and trying to at the same time rule her people, even though she kind of really doesn't want to. And I still continued on with this series and read sorry. And for my third book, I again continued on with the series and read Undead Unappreciated, the third book in the Betsy Taylor series. Now this, it starts getting slightly less funny in this book for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Probably because this one handled quite a few more serious topics, such as Betsy's father trying to push her out of his life and stuff like that. I mean, she came back from the dead and everybody in her family except for her horrible stepmother is happy to have her back, and her father, being the kind of doormat he is, does anything the stepmother tells him to. So it is Betsy's father complying with his second wife's wishes by pushing Betsy out of his life, but Betsy is not having it, and a few more serious topics, but it is still pretty funny. Not as funny as the first or second book, but still very funny. Next I read Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies by Jane Austen and Seth Smith. Now this is basically Pride and Prejudice. It is Jane Austen's words, Jane Austen's ideas, and what she thought of the people in her time, but with zombies. So there are certain things in the book that you know happen, and they still pretty much happen, but certain things, like when they're walking to the town that they live in, to the nearest town so that they can go shopping, on the way to the town they fight zombies. So it is still Pride and Prejudice, just with zombies. And I gotta say, I did read Pride and Prejudice, the original book, and I found it kind of boring. Kind of, just a little bit. I still liked it, but kind of boring. I really liked this, especially with the fighting and the karate and all the zombies. I really did like it, and I gave this a 3-star rating. And the movie comes out in a few days, and I'm going to see it with my mother, and I cannot wait to see all the scenes put on the big screen. For this next book, I was supposed to be buddy reading this with a friend, but of course she took forever to read it. So of course she was on page 7. The very next day I went to the library, picked it up so that we could buddy read it together. And of course I told myself I'm gonna have to hurry if I'm gonna keep up with her so that she doesn't have to wait for me. 2 days later I saw her and I said, okay, I'm on page 135. What page are you on? I'm on page 12, she says. So I was like, oh my God. So of course I tried to slow down my reading. I really did. But there were certain parts that I just could not put the book down. These characters in this book are twisted, and they're just the most imperfect characters you could think of. They are probably the realest characters I've ever read about. And the book is You by Caroline Kepnes. The main character's name is Joe, and one day while working in his bookshop, a girl named Guinevere walks in, but she thinks her name is kind of pretentious, so she has everyone call her Beck. And I believe it's like her middle name or something. Joe instantly becomes obsessed with her and starts stalking her, and it is just crazy. I mean, there are certain times where he's thinking where you're like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. But then it's like his psyche takes a complete flip and you're like, okay, you need help. You need some serious help. And I am planning to do a book review on this book, so you can look forward to that. I will try and do a spoiler section and a non-spoiler section. And the book I am currently reading right now, I have not quite finished. This book does not have page numbers, so I'm gonna have to count it, so hold on. I am about 20 pages in, and that is Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction and Chip. I can't even pronounce Chip's last name, so I'm going to put Chip's name here. So those are the two authors, and this is about two people who somehow discover that when they have a sexual climax, so that they can freeze time, and then one night they sleep together and they realize that neither one of them is frozen, and they decide to rob banks. At least that's what the back says. I have not reached that far yet. So far it is okay. Really, it's okay. It's not fantastic. It's not making me want to pick up the second book, at least not yet, but it's pretty good. So we'll see how I feel about this next month. Well, that is my January wrap up, and hopefully by next month I am over this cold. I am feeling better, but the cold is definitely still here, in my chest especially, and my nose, which is probably why I sound a little funny. But I will see you guys next week. Bye!